Okay, welcome everybody to. We have. Okay, welcome everybody. Saxon, do you have a window open? You have I think. Hang on. Okay, welcome everybody. Saxon, do you have a window open? You have okay. All right, there we go. Okay, sorry about that. A little bit of a. That's what happens when you have the YouTube in the background play. Okay, welcome everybody to Wall Street Reporter's next Super Stock live stream. We got a very special live stream for you today. We have Saxon Shatforth, the CSO, Chief Strategy Officer of BETS, with us today. Saxon, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me, Jack. Excited to, I guess, shed some light on what's next for BETS.
Absolutely. Listen, I guarantee we're going to have a lot of questions, and we'll address, the elephant in the room. We'll get to all that. We'll get to the strategy, all the big things ahead. But first, for anybody that's new to our program, Wall Street Reporter's next Super Stock live stream is all about bringing you those stocks which have that 10x to 100x upside potential. So far in the last 18 months, we've had a bunch of 10x, 15x, 17x, even a 50x stock went from a nickel to $2.50. We want to find out if BETS could be that, a $10 stock from here, or even a $20 stock. So the main idea is, we'll go through the Q&A with Saxon, and then really ask your questions, because it's the audience questions, your questions that really make these events special. So, check it out, and we'll pop through the questions. So, Saxon, with that being said, no, we haven't met you before, so you're brand new. So just tell us a little bit about what's your role at BETS right now?
Yeah, so I've been involved with the group for a little over a year, but in the industry for nearly 20 years. And I joined this project. It's exciting to be part of any group that's working in this industry, but certainly one that's targeting, exciting and hyper growth aspects of this market. And the ones that we've chosen to pursue and I guess target are very much two of the most exciting markets in the world at the moment in betting and gaming in the United States and India.
India, okay. So which is interesting, because again, the India thing is kind of a new market. You're doing this really. You've been in this industry really since basic day one, since the industry started, more or less.
Yeah, I mean, my background is working initially in product but mostly servicing North America, and then I've traveled around working, launching many brands in markets in North America, Europe, Asia, Latin America, and come back around again to focus on some markets that I've worked in before with different brands. So it's definitely an exciting time to be working in this industry still.
And so your specialty is what? Is it kind of the overall strategy of how to get players, how to develop what is it what are you bringing to BETS?
Yeah, so I guess myself and a collective of 45 people spend our day, I guess primarily, trying to grow the fundamentals of the business. But a huge part of growing this business is a combination of growth by acquisition and growth by strong partner networks in the markets that we've chosen to pursue. Since the stock launched last July, there have been 3 successful product launches, brand launches, and 2 of those have come through acquisitions. And we'll continue to grow organically and inorganically. There's a lot of things happening and a lot of momentum in some of these markets, and we hope to continue to be well positioned to take advantage of growth as it presents itself. But, okay. My mission is mostly finding players, looking for ways to engage them and keep those players and monetize them through different entertainment value propositions.
Okay, so essentially the main thing that you guys are really doing right now is the Indian market. That's kind of like where the big focus is right now, right? And then essentially you're going to go to the U.S. What's kind of the strategy?
Sure. I mean, certainly both markets are very active and very similar in several ways. It's definitely not a new market. It's certainly been one of the largest gaming markets in the world for a very long time, but it's definitely quite similar to the United States in the way that there are 29 states, and its regulations are a little different and nuanced between the states. The reason why India is that it's probably the fastest growing, it's unquestioned the fastest growing market in the world, and it's led by very similar categories to that of, really where the US was in 2017 with the explosive growth of DraftKings and FanDuel and in and around the fantasy sports. And the same thing is happening in India, and it's been happening very swiftly in this past 3 years, where there's a few hundred million people playing. This morning, the largest tournament in India kicked off. Well, this morning where I am, but certainly in the evening in India, the Indian Premier League is an enormous event which has a lot of interest. And I guess
this is the cricket, right? Cricket.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. And it's funny. We were talking about, I think was it the other day, and you said that actually it's playing live right now. You're in where? You're in Vancouver, right?
Yes. Now. So there's a tournament. Last year there were 2 of them, but this year, usually in April, for 6 weeks, the entire country, or not just the country, there are 500 million viewers around the world that watch this tournament. And the very first game started today. And one of our most important recent investments in India, BLITF pools. We were seeing some incredible volume already this morning. I think we're over 50,000 registrations today, which is a great start to the tournament. And we expect those numbers to be about the same every day. That's the kind of we're a relatively small player compared to some of the big dogs that are working in fantasy in India. But yeah, it's quite phenomenal, the growth there.
Okay, so wait, so you're getting 50. Okay, so, and we'll dive into like how you monetize all that stuff. But okay, so you got the cricket thing going. I think from what you told me, it goes on for what, 6 weeks, right? It's a 6 week.
Yeah, there are 60 games, and it culminates on the 30th of May with a final. And okay. It's certainly
And you said something. I think. Oh, this is what you said. You said that this is. I think on Google, this is like the most searched term in the world. I mean, like last. What's the stats you gave me yesterday? Just tell me.
What in 2020, Google published its global top 10 search terms, and the top 5 was obviously coronavirus, the election results, Kobe Bryant, Zoom, and then the 5th one was IPL, or the Indian Premier League tournament. The 6th one, coincidentally, was India versus New Zealand, which was just a single game last year, which gives you some idea of the interest globally. And obviously, that's quite that percentage is led by those that are living in India, of course.
Okay, in your strategy, so let's get into the bet strategy. How are you going to make money, in the Indian market, and then we'll talk about the U.S. So
sure. I mean, similar to the U.S. I mean, there's a lot of value given to groups such as DraftKings and FanDuel for building, large audiences. And really, there's nothing different in India about leveraging fantasy to build very large or access very large audiences, and then cross-selling those players that enter into a pool or a tournament in like daily fantasy, and cross-selling them over time to other products which have different legal posture in India than they do in the United States, for example. In certain states in the US, DraftKings cross-sells to sports, and in 3 states, casino. In India, the most prevalent categories, or the ones that we're pursuing with our portfolio at this time, is fantasy, and then poker. In time we'll add other categories.
Okay. Yeah, I guess with legal. So poker is basically the legal form of gaming in India. They can bet them. You can have.
There are 2. Yeah, I mean it's similar to the path in the United States, where it's deemed to be a game of skill, and it's not every state has the same opinion. But the majority of states, 24 of the 29 in India, essentially it's not illegal, and people pay taxes, and certainly it's quite accessible to the masses.
Okay. Well, okay. So
betting is something which very similar to the United States. Is something that in India is waiting for its watershed moment, similar to the middle of 2018 when the PASPA regulation changed. That's really, in a nutshell, what we're betting on in India, is that obviously it's has a lot of demand for the products. There's obviously people who are monetizing via sports betting today. We'll await regulation and to ensure that we're approaching very similar to the United States. It's that's what we're betting on, is that sometime in the next 12 to 24 months, one of the states in India, or some of them, will eventually regulate, and that's where we see the value of having 5, 10, 20 million active users. That's really what will help bring a lot of value to the operation.
Okay, so essentially you're following the DraftKings model in India, which is like, the biggest market in the world besides China, right? I mean, who has more population in India? I think they're neck and neck.
China, India, and I think in a couple of years it may be India.
It's neck and neck. Yeah, I think it's like $1.5 billion or so. It's fast growing middle class. Everybody knows that the demographic story. It's okay. So basically,
I mean, my experience, the market there, say 5 or 6 years ago, had very anemic lifetime value for players, and the participation rates were lower, and certainly in line with almost every other metric in India. That gap between the tier 1 markets or North America, it's rapidly closing. And so, the number of people that are, I guess, fall into the category of VIP tier or very active bettors in India is substantial now. So it's a market which is, yes, it's large in scope, but it's becoming much larger in terms of its relevance in direct comparison to
the dollars. So basically, the dollar bounce. I mean, they're catching up. The gap between the Indian bettor and, let's call it, the US or the UK bettor, or whatever, it's closing pretty much.
Yes.
Okay. So okay, which is, I think, why now. What's the company? What's the big leader? So the leader in India is
it's quite fractured in terms of, there are probably 70 operators of fantasy products in India, but there's one that's head and shoulders above, and there's Dream 11.
Dream 11, okay.
And Dream 11 most recently, whether it has 100 or 110 million users, it was recently revalued at $5 billion after taking on a $400 million investment from some large institutional investors and others. So it's we have some distance to travel to catch for Dream 11 to be worried about us, but it's certainly, that's our stated mission, is to get to 5 million users by the end of this year and 10 million by the end of 2022. And so with that, and our growing portfolio of products that we monetize, obviously fantasy, very similar to the US, is a low revenue per active player. But if that player graduates and plays poker or rummy or eventually other skill-based games, or if sports betting is regulated, that's over time you'll monetize them, and that average value per player will continue to rise. But that's
okay. So basically, Dream 11, and so their valuation is approximately what right now? It's a couple billion, no?
$5 billion.
$5 billion, and they have 100 million players in their fantasy thing?
Well, maybe with the tournament starting today, they have 110, but it's around that, yes. There's been a lot of speculation.
Okay. So in theory, you should be worth at least, let's just say, 1/20th of that. So what is that? That's you're probably good at math, right? Because you're in the betting. So what's 1/20th of $5 billion? Is that 200 million? I think.
Yeah,
plus?
it was certainly where we're aiming to get to is 20 million users would get us to be inching on, cresting towards maybe $1 billion. But it's a distance to travel, but that's roughly the math.
Okay. So basically, so the bottom line is people need to keep an eye on that user count, because that kind of that relates to enterprise value, right? So 20 million users would get you $1 billion valuation.
If that would be.
I mean, the current market.
One way of looking at it, yes. You obviously need to work on the fundamentals of the business, and growing the revenue to 50 to 100 million would be part of that puzzle. You clearly need to continue to get revenue to fund it. So
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so let's talk about and the strategy is what the strategy you're pursuing to get people to join the fantasy pools is you get these celebrity, the sports stars of cricket and Bollywood people, everything else.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's certainly one of the tactics is to use we're calling them Team Blitz, which is essentially a team member of each one of the Indian Premier League teams throughout this tournament. Will be quite active on social media, specifically Instagram. And in conjunction or leading up to it, we've been leveraging a plethora of other influencers / celebrities. And our total, I guess, cumulative reach of some of those influencers is over 215 million. So that's it's not the only way to acquire players. Obviously, there's investment in more direct marketing tactics, but it's definitely a key part of it is to leverage social media platforms.
Oh, I want to kind of get back to the promotion you're doing right now. While the IPL, while this cricket match championship is going on, you're basically, again, your goal is to get to these 20 million. You want to have 20 million users in your system in the next, let's call it, few years.
By the end of 2022, that's where we'd like to be. Yes.
Okay, so roughly end of next year.
Yes.
Okay, and right now you're going to have, at the current rate, you're getting 50,000 users a day during this big thing. So that's going to get you.
Day one should be the biggest day. So
okay.
We'd like to add 1.5 to 2 million throughout the tournament. That's our goal.
Okay, so and that'll get you close. That's going to kind of get you. Each million gets you closer to that 20 million, basically.
Yeah, it's a good it's a amazing year of sport relative to last year. 2020 was a difficult year for sport, and I think there's a lot of catch up going on, a lot of sporting calendars, and the same said for cricket. There's some big events that really come very quickly after this tournament ends in May, and football or soccer and a whole host of the World Cup is on for cricket as well. So there's a lot of things that will help us get to that number by the end of the year if we continue to invest in the right places.
Okay, so before we get into audience questions, again, I'm waiting for audience questions here. Let's address. Okay, so the big elephant in the room, which we haven't gotten to, is last week it was announced that the CEO is out of the company. What's going on? What happened? When is the new CEO going to come in? What's going on?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly there was a lot of good work done from the team that built the business from scratch and got it funded early and listed. And I think a lot of effort was done there from several individuals, including the CEO. And I guess this is the next phase. There's an active search for a replacement, but in the meantime, there's a collective of 45 people that are still charging towards the same North Star that was there a month ago, a year ago. So ultimately, it's about scaling the business and growing in the markets that we've chosen to target. And I guess the roster's changing a little bit.
Okay, but the bottom line is that basically the day-to-day, the business, government keeps whatever. There's a team, there's an actual team. It's not, you said you have 45 people essentially in this team who are doing all the day-to-day stuff, getting new players, markets, marketing, all that good stuff?
Yeah, so in particular, we have offices which unfortunately aren't populated right now, but in India we have a couple of two companies that have been acquired, or certainly majority stakes, and that's an active team that's charging towards the same goal they were 2 weeks ago. So I think that's
okay. So let's get to some audience questions. We got next phase. I guess that is a question about U.S. market. What's going on with the U.S. market?
Yeah, I mean the obviously the strategy in the US is you need a lot of capital to take advantage of opportunities in that market, and there are active discussions to help some land-based groups go online. I'm not really able to disclose specific names or brands, but obviously there's a lot of groups with very strong brands in various states which have regulated that are looking to get online and monetize their brand and their brand equity where they can, and that's really the go-to-market strategy for the US at this point. Well, so certain states within the US, I should say.
Okay, so it's going to be basically what, like a partnership where essentially you're going to operate their online component?
Yeah, that's the essence of the collaboration agreement, which was entered into. Yes.
Okay. Okay, so let's get into some questions here. Okay. Michael is asking, okay, says Chris was a significant investor, the former CEO, significant investor in the company. Will his departure cause Bets any financial stress?
I'm not really sure I can answer that. I don't anticipate any financial stress. I mean, I don't expect any.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess actually the question is like, the company is not relying on Chris to fund the company. I mean, he's not funding the. He's a shareholder, but there's no this company was not looking to him for capital. So it's like I think actually right now you're in actually a pretty good position to raise capital. I mean, the stock is has decent liquidity. Valuation is I obviously would like to see the valuation a little bit higher, but I don't think there's any shortage of people who'd want to fund the company.
Well, there's a lot of deal flow and a lot of activity, and certainly a lot of investors are looking at this category. So obviously you always have to keep your eye on it and continue to deliver value and execute. But certainly at this point there's healthy investors momentum out there and funding, and I guess the financial situation of the group's fine at this point.
Okay. Let's see here. Okay, so Nicholas is asking, okay, is the US I think he may have missed. Okay, what is the main focus? Because there was a question where it was, I think it was previously referred to that India was going to be like, I guess the idea was that was understood was, okay, India is going to be the first big growth phase for the company. It's kind of the easy entry, low hanging fruit, so to speak, easy to get in. It's cash flow.
I mean, anyone that's tried to do business in new markets, I don't think anyone would say any of them are easy or there's low lying fruit. There's we have a collective group of people that have a lot of experience in this market and networks that have been developed over decades. So we're really, I guess, cashing in on that work that's gone before. I wouldn't call it an easy place to grow a business, but it's definitely very fast growing, and the return on investment relative to some of the opportunities in North America made it, I guess, strategically make more sense to deploy the capital that had been raised into that market, get some momentum, and invest in some businesses that are relatively cash flow neutral and that are not draining on the treasury, and grow from there.
Okay. Yeah, I think maybe I didn't stay correct.
Yeah.
But the idea is basically to start off in India, and then once that's cash flow and whatever, and then you can get into the US. But also the valuation. I guess at some point, the valuation of the company is going to reflect the growth in India that you're getting, and then you'll be able. It's going to make it an easier entry into the U.S., which is very competitive now. No.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, unfortunately, the US is a complicated market to enter, or set of markets, and it requires significant resources. And quite frankly, we would need a lot more resources to make a dent in some of the market share that some of the big incumbents like your PointsBet and DraftKings and FanDuel are I guess, making right now.
Okay. So again, I guess to recap, I guess the focus of the company, people are trying to. I think what they're trying to understand is, okay, what is there one particular focus, or you're gonna? So the idea is, like, what's going to be the growth plan, or is you going to get the India thing going, then go to US, or what's like? I guess they're asking is, when can they? If I'm trying to read between the lines, when are you going to enter the US market? Is I think what they're trying to ask.
Yeah, I don't have a exact answer to that. I mean, there's active discussions for entry based on the back of agreements that are in place.
Okay. Let's see.
I guess the approach and is relatively similar, though, in terms of having building up audiences with lower CPA products, or where you can do marketing far more affordably, and that would be in the fantasy or the contest space, and then monetizing them via real money gaming, games of skill in India, or if in the US it'd be sports betting. It's the same approach, really.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Okay, in terms of the new CEO coming in, when is that? There's a certain, like, when do you have any idea of, like, when the board is going to bring in the new CEO?
No, at this point it's relatively new, and as I say, there's an active search, and okay. I'm sure it'll be published as and when.
Okay. Let's see. Okay, so we got a question here. Okay. We have to ask. Okay, we got. Okay, we have a super chat question. Anthony's asking. I don't know if you're able to answer this question. Can you explain?
I'm not really able to answer questions on
the stock, basically.
On the stock, in terms of who owns what and who's selling and buying what. It's not something that I'm able to.
Okay, I mean, basically, it was just so people understand. Your role was really essentially like the market strategy. You're not involved in the stock or like the capital raising or anything.
Well, obviously, we're all interested in the stock and helping communicate and deliver value to investors and make sure they understand what it is we're doing and earn their trust over time. Of course, I'm interested in the stock personally, but my focus is more waking up every day and finding how we can find the next million customers that will then,
Yeah, but I mean, like, you're not
value to the company.
Right, but in other words, you're not involved in, like, the capital raising or any of those aspects of the company. You're not involved in those parts of the company, essentially.
No, my mission is to grow the fundamentals of the business and look for opportunities and partnerships to do that faster than just growing organically. Yeah.
Okay. And I guess the part two was, he was asking, is the North America, so the U.S. deal, is that? So I guess he's asking, is it on track? Which is this casino partnership?
Yeah, all I can say is that it's not really able to disclose any specific active discussions. That would be inappropriate. So it's definitely an active part of the business, and there are people and resources deployed on that. It's not something that we can disclose ahead of time, though.
Okay. So we're gonna have all the uncomfortable questions. We're gonna well, not uncomfortable, but just people asking the obvious is okay. So he's asking, is Chris still part of the company?
He resigned as the CEO of the company. So.
Okay. So essentially, I mean, he may have stock, but he's not involved in the company, essentially, from a managerial standpoint.
Not to my knowledge, no.
Okay. Let's see what else. Okay. So we got okay. So the U.S. thing is we're gonna. I'm assuming we're gonna hear some news at some point in the next couple of weeks.
I don't want to put a prediction on a couple of weeks, but certainly there are a lot of things to talk about in the next 6 to 8 weeks around the businesses that are currently active, and we look forward to communicating things that are happening with our assets that are active right now as a priority, and then clearly we're ambitious in more than one market, and I can't put a date on when we'll be announcing a future deal or a future opportunity in the US market.
Okay. So this do you, Saxon, do you feel like you're like one of these people at a political news conference in the U.S. where they're tossing? So Jeremy's asking, did Chris say anything in a previous interview that was out of line? Maybe I think there's been talk that maybe Chris said something. Did he say anything that or well, maybe people are saying that he said something and the board got angry, or I don't know what is that?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. Let's see. Okay, so basically, the U.S. Okay, so the U.S. thing, we could be hearing something soon, I think. You mentioned something interesting. Part of you said part of your focus is is part of your focus like M&A, like bringing in new acquisitions?
Yeah, well, certainly the way that we've entered the Indian market has been via two acquisitions, one of a poker business and one of a fantasy business, and the market's growing quickly, and there are some really good products and groups out there that could help add to our portfolio or build on the existing portfolio even within the same category. So that's certainly something that we're actively always looking at. But secondary to making sure that we deliver value from the ones that we've already committed to and invested in. But it's a very active market globally, I think, really right now. So there's a lot of deal flow in every market.
Okay, and so have you is that like what percentage of your focus is acquisitions, M&A activity? Like, is that like just part of the normal player acquisition, or like is it like how much of your day does that take up?
Player acquisition or
no. In other words, I guess the question is, do you see like company acquisition as part of like or in other words, what percentage of your day do you focus on acquiring other companies in the space, or is that part like?
Well, prior to when we acquired the poker and the fantasy business, it was a lot of time, and then now it's shifted to obviously making good on those assets and working with the teams closely and their partner ecosystems to try to strengthen in those relationships. And in many cases, we're investing a lot more money in marketing to help grow those businesses. So, my personal time and the team is probably depends on the cycle time of where we're at. But right now, we're very focused on executing and seizing the opportunity in the Indian Premier League tournament. That's probably where majority of the focus is today. But it's obviously a lot going on, and there are a lot of companies that are looking for exits, and there are others that don't have enough fuel to get to the next level, and that's where there's always opportunities to to work with our board and our investors to grow.
Okay, so it sounds like you have your eye on kind of other potential acquisitions out there.
Always, but we have to temper that with delivering the fundamentals to the businesses we actually operate. So that's
Okay. Okay. And so, and again, you've been doing this for I don't know, almost 20 years, right, in this space. So is it kind of the same? Is it kind of a small world of the same, more or less, people that you run into all these people? I mean, does everybody know each other in this business? I mean, do you know all the players in India essentially, where you can pick up like any of the smaller players or bigger, and they'll take your call and say, hey,
No, I think the last 15 years, the players in the market has radically expanded. I think for back in the early 2000s, it was a very small. Even the conference sizes, the rooms that they were in were very small. Now, unfortunately, no one's going to conferences. But I think in the last 15, 20 years, the number of people employed in the online aspect of the industry, is 50x what it was. So there's definitely a lot more active people, and certainly markets like the United States, you've got hundreds of thousands of new entrants or new participants in the market in terms of being employed or working in this space. So yes, there's definitely a lot of common circles that people move in, but I think the business is growing, and even the categories are growing. So the products that were available to the end customer 15, 20 years ago have evolved greatly today, and a lot of that's got to do with the transition to the mobile device and internet speeds, and there's a much richer experience, and people have evolved their interests. So there's a lot more categories now than just sports and casino, and then the poker boom. You've now got obviously all sorts of games of skill and chance. In India, they've had chess tournaments with 500,000 people in them. So there's definitely different games, in all markets. So
okay, so we got a question. You're working with Fans Unite also, yeah?
Personally, I was a director of Fans Unite, and then after an acquisition, I'm no longer a board member, but everyone's in Vancouver. It's a friendly relationship.
Okay, so you're still friends with Fans Unite?
Yes.
Okay, because Fans Unite is they're friends of ours too. They're part of our circle of clients, and the stock has done very well. I mean, the stock was 20 cents and went to 250. I'm hopefully well now everything is pulled back in the last two months, 6 weeks, basically. So
well, the category of esports, and it's certainly fast growing, and it's in every market. So I think it's definitely a category that we're looking very closely at as well. I wouldn't call it a direct competitor, but even in you need good B2B partners to enter these markets, and that's a group which has a solid B2B offering as well. So it's hard to build and own the IP to address new market categories like esports betting or esports fantasy. So.
Okay, I guess I'm going to get ahead of what might be the next question. Is there a conflict? I mean, is there a conflict of interest? But these are two completely separate, separate strategies, separate almost industries, if you will, between
Correct.
Fans and bets.
Correct.
So we got questions. Financial projections. Of course, Saxon, are you going to make financial projections or no?
No, I mean, as a publicly listed company, these are things that are communicated appropriately, and I think the first year is coming up the end of July. I mean, there'll be a quarterly report, I'm sure.
Okay. Let's see what else. What other questions? That's it. This is. I can't believe we don't have more questions. I thought we'd have 103 questions here today. Saxon, you're getting away very easy.
Maybe.
You thought you'd be facing a firing squad here. Okay, well, actually, is the stock hold? I am not looking at this. Is the stock holded right now?
Actually, I do understand that there was, prior to me coming on the call, there was some clarity gained there that I expect that to be resolved either now or in the next hours or so.
Oh, okay. I wasn't aware. Oh, do you think maybe they asked them to hold the stock while just in case anything? I have no idea. Okay, so basically, I don't know. Is the stock hold? I have no idea. Okay, so let's see. Do we have questions?
There's certainly no material news that would, invoke that kind of event, to my knowledge.
Okay. Bottom line is there's no material. There's no material news that for the stock. Okay, it's just for whatever is going on there. Okay. So this sounds. So it sounds like we're basically. Bottom line is the takeaway is I'm getting is okay. Things are on track. India is moving forward. You got you got 50,000 people signing up today, which is the first day of the cricket tournament. What is it? What do you call it? A tournament or what is it called?
Indian Premier League tournament. So
tournament.
it's a structure of the game called T20, which is most popular in terms of people viewing, and it's fast for cricket. It's over and done in 3 hours, and
okay. So essentially, so the 50,000 signups today, is that fall into your what you were expecting? Does that meet your expectations, or are you expecting more or less people? Like what? Because I know you guys do a lot of like kind of sophisticated marketing planning.
Yeah, we're pretty much ahead of where we thought we'd be. We launched the brand Blitz Pools in early March. Rebranded it from Live Pools, and so far, we had 300,000 registrations in the month of March, and that was more or less, what we'd forecasted, and there wasn't a lot going on in terms of the calendar. April, obviously, we're far more ambitious, and we're very happy with the progress this week, and particularly today. And we hope that this time tomorrow I'll know more about the how those registered users translated into people who pulled out their wallet and joined a pool, and hopefully some people won some money.
Okay, actually, I don't know. Do you have? We didn't plan this, but do you have? Now you have your. I guess these celebrity endorsers, these sports stars that are basically saying, "Hey, join Blitz Pool." I don't know. Is that what they're saying? Join Blitz Pools,
Yep.
Or, do you have like what do they do? They do this on Instagram? How do they do this actually? How do they reach the audience?
Yeah, Instagram swipe up, and that goes to a join my pool now.
Oh, okay. It's an ad. So basically, you run ads on Instagram. That's a big part of it.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, fantasy in India has got a appropriate posture where you can do social media marketing and obviously even television marketing, more or less countrywide. So
but social media is much. I mean, you get much better. Metro. You get the stats, everything. It's much more. You see where your money's going.
Yeah, obviously, it's a digital format that's right there on the phone. It's engaging short video content, and we do see a lot of good traffic come from. Not every influencer has the same engagement with their their followers, but we try to have a balance between those nano micro influencers and the bigger celebrities, which obviously they have fractured focus on what they promote, but we try to find a balance. And in the aggregate, we've got trying to reach 215 million people over the month of April through some of the those social media partners that we're using.
Okay, so essentially, so these social media partners you have, these influencers that you're using, their audience is 250 million in combined.
Yeah, it's possible some of them might follow two of the same cricketers, but in aggregate, yes. Yeah.
Okay. What we should do is next time, I don't know if you have it now, but next time we could maybe see some of these ads, like what these ads look like, who these people are, like, so we can actually put a face, like, hey, this is what the marketing program actually looks like. Because we have people in our audience who actually know about cricket. I know it's, we do have people, so they'll be interested. Okay. What about so we talked about the U.S. We're not gonna. Obviously, can't get into too many details. What about UK and Europe? Any plans for that?
Well, obviously, you need a lot of money to enter some of these regulated markets. And even in the United States, some of the states, you need $2 million to get past go. So you have to be careful and responsible with the money in terms of where you choose to spend it. But obviously, we're trying to focus on markets where we know we can execute. And then as and when opportunities come up where we can do it in a fiscally responsible way, we'll look at other markets. But to do 12 markets concurrently would be reckless. So there's obviously markets everywhere that are growing fast, and certainly in Latin America as well as Europe. But at this point, there's no stated goal in 2021 we'll be going to the UK. No.
Okay, so it seems like you're taking a very conservative approach. One thing, one step at a time. India, US, and we'll see from there. But I mean, India by itself is. I mean, we talk about this. There's a company that's worth $5 billion that's just focused on India. No, this Dream 11.
Plenty of the pie keeps getting bigger there. So there's a lot of A lot of work to be done there in that market for sure.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think most of our audience would be happy if you just got to a, even a fifth of that value. If you got to $1 billion valuation, most people who are watching this right now would be very happy. Even if you didn't go to the US, even if you just stayed in India, you got to $1 billion market cap, people would be thrilled.
Well, I would be.
Me too. So everybody was watching. So on that note, let's see. So Saxon, thank you for joining us. You were a good sport. You came on, answered all the tough questions as best as could be, as best as could be expected. Right? There's some things you really can't answer, which is understandable. And maybe we'll do like a follow up in a couple of weeks. We'll after, I guess, maybe halfway through the this tournament. Right? This goes for 6 weeks, right?
Once we hit our first million in the tournament of new users, maybe, yeah.
Okay. So when you get the first million out of the tournament, which would be roughly 20 days from now, no? 19 days from now.
Yeah.
Okay, that'll be an interesting milestone. Okay, that'll be great. And by then, also come back with some of the maybe you do a demo reel of the the Instagram ads that you have going, so that we can see all that good stuff. Okay, Saxon, thank you again. Thank you everybody for joining today's live stream, and we'll see you in the next one.
Thanks for having me. Bye-bye.